This is, we heard the announcement about a week and a half ago at the Worldwide Developers Conference, the MacBook Pro with Retina display, and I've been calling it the MacBook Elite. An elite price, but also an elite form factor that some people will say is the best MacBook ever. That's what Apple's calling it. Is it? In short, yes. But there are definitely trade-offs. First of all, look how thin it is. It's only slightly thinner than the MacBook Air. It is a lot heavier, 1.5 pounds heavier. So some people are going to say, well, that's a little too heavy for me to carry. It's a big screen. That's a 15.4-inch screen. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. They have different connectors on this, and that's one of the big changes here. 2 Thunderbolt ports. That's kind of overkill. I'm not sure why you have 2 Thunderbolt ports on it. They've now got USB 3 because this is based on the Ivy Bridge platform from Intel, which kind of gives you USB 3 for free. I've ordered a USB flash drive, and I'll give you a report on how fast it is. Apparently, with USB 3, we're going to be able to read at 220 megabytes a second. I mean, it is noticeably, appreciably lots faster if you get the drive that has the speed. On the other side, another USB 3 connector, and wait a minute, what's that? That's an HDMI port. Now, we really never missed HDMI on the MacBooks with Thunderbolt because Thunderbolt's easily converted. This is a mini display port. You can buy an inexpensive adapter that turns it into HDMI. We use those all the time around the studio. They're reliable, they're cheap, they're easy to use. So I'm not really sure why they felt the need to put an HDMI port on it, but it'll certainly be welcome for anybody who wants to connect this to a TV. It works great. We plugged in our HDMI adapters here. The MacBook instantly sensed it, instantly set the resolution to an appropriate scale, and it worked just flawlessly and without any configuration on our part. I do appreciate that. Of course, finally, you'll see an SD card slot here, which Apple has included on all of its MacBook Pros lately. The keyboard is very similar, backlit keyboard. They have the great Apple trackpad, the best in class with this glass trackpad. But the screen is, of course, what's getting all the attention. This is a very high resolution screen. It's native resolution, and I say that carefully because you're not going to be using its native resolution most of the time. Its native resolution is double the old 15.4-inch MacBook Pro. It's 2880 across by 1800 top to bottom. It is a very high resolution display, the highest resolution display I've ever seen in this size of a screen. If I set this screen to that native resolution, though, menus are too tiny to use, windows are so small, icons are so small, and you can't read the text. So this display, if you use Apple's best for Retina setting, will always be, get ready for this, 1440 by 900. What, you might say? Well, because it's got so many extra pixels, it's using sub-pixel rendering, aliasing to make text look super crisp, and I'll show you the text looks fantastic on this. And in applications written by Apple and soon by other companies to take advantage of the Retina display, when it needs the additional resolution, it can use it. As an example, Aperture will use the higher resolution. This is VLC, and it's giving me this. I'm going to show you a movie. In fact, let me show you right now. This is a fantastic movie that was shot in 4K. This is a 1620p version of Timescapes that the developers sent to me. And the resolution on this, the crispness on this, you're probably not seeing it at home because you're only seeing it at best at 720p. Believe me, you've never seen anything look so good. It looks like you're looking through a window. Hear how good that music sounds? They have updated the speakers. They're not super loud, but the quality is noticeably better. Very good for a notebook. You know, if you really want high fidelity, you're still going to attach speakers to the MacBook Pro with Retina. Initially, Apple has updated its apps, Safari, Aperture, iPhoto, iMovie, to take advantage of this incredible display. And I've already seen some other apps be updated. There are a number of apps. Chrome today came out in the developer channel with an updated Chrome that looks fantastic. Most of the time, though, if you're not using that updated Chrome, you'll want to use Safari as your browser. Otherwise, sites don't look very good. And it's interesting, there's some applications like Twitter that just look terrible. And the reason is Twitter, for an example, in order to make scrolling faster, doesn't use the native text rendering libraries in the Macintosh, the WebKit libraries. It actually pre-renders the text and then kind of displays it as an image so it scrolls faster. That turns out to have been a bad strategy when we get to the Retina display. I'm sure, in fact, I think Twitter's already said they'll be updating that application. Meanwhile, applications that do use WebKit will already take advantage. I mean, the text on this, I have to show you, is spectacular. If you're doing any reading at all, you will be very happy. Let's go to Slashdot, which is a very text-heavy site, and show you how great it looks. Well, you may not really be able to tell, but believe me, now that I've been reading text on this screen, I can't go back to anything. The Retina display on the Apple or the iPhone, or maybe my Samsung Galaxy S. Here, I'll dim it a little bit so you can see a little bit better. It's just so good. You'll see it immediately when you open up the computer. The icons look so great on the dock. Everything is crisper and much, much more legible. It really, unfortunately, there's no point in getting closer to your screen, though, folks, because you're just not going to see it at home. You have to go to an Apple store to take a look. Battery life on this has been pretty good. It charges fast. They did change the MagSafe adapter, so if you order this, you're going to want to get a $10 MagSafe adapter so you can use it with your other power supplies. Unaccountably, they now have the MagSafe adapter sticking back out as it used to, instead of the nice slim form factor that they have on the MacBook Airs. I'm not sure why they did that. I don't think there's any technical reason for that. There's one other thing people might have noticed and are very upset about. There's no Ether port on this. So if you work somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi, or you need Ethernet when you travel around, you're either going to want to buy the additional Ethernet adapter that plugs into the USB 3, or you're just not going to want to buy this computer. There are compromises in its design. However, there are no compromises in the SSD. It's very fast, and the Retina display, it's gorgeous. I am very happy with it. It's thin, it's light, and it is absolutely, in my opinion, the best MacBook ever. $21.99 for the base unit. The base unit comes pretty well equipped with an 8GB RAM and 256GB SSD, an i7 4-core, quad-core i7 running at, I think, 2.3 gigahertz, although of course, as needed, it can speed up to even faster than 3 gigahertz. I've found this machine to be the fastest Mac I've ever used, partly because of the SSD, partly because of the quad-core i7. Faster even than my Xeon Mac Pro at home. And if, by the way, I know people want to know, yes, it plays Diablo beautifully, even at the highest resolution. Just spectacular. It looks great. It feels great. I like carrying it around. A little bit heavier than a MacBook Air, but boy, you sure get a whole lot more. Would I buy this? Well, let me give you the pros and cons first. The pros: the great display, the very high speed, the gorgeous looks, the ultra slim profile. The cons: no Ethernet port. It is not upgradable or repairable in any way. They've glued all the parts in here. In fact, it is pricey. That's the third con, and you're going to have to, I think, buy the $350 Apple Care when you buy this. So add another $350 to the cost, making it $2,550 plus tax, because you cannot service this. You're going to have to bring it back to Apple. They say 1,000 charges on the battery, but after that, it's $200 to replace the battery, and only Apple can do it. Pentalobe screws, glued-in parts. Even the screen is glued together. There's no glass in the front. That's a little disappointing. It means it's not repairable. That's a con. But overall, absolutely strong buy recommendation. If you can afford it and you want the top of the line, this absolutely is a MacBook Pro Elite, the new MacBook Pro with Retina display. Just a gorgeous work of art, and I think a harbinger of things to come from Apple.